Hey guys, welcome to Executive Espresso. And I'm not sure our guest will be able to make it. She may be having some technical difficulties, but we're going to soldier on today because guess what? It's Valentine's Day, and around here somewhere, oh my goodness, I have some chocolates, but I'm afraid someone stole my chocolates. My goodness, what do you do when someone steals your chocolates? Well, we're going to talk about that here for about the next 16 to 18 minutes because I love to move forward with Executive Espresso even when kerfuffles happen. And so, what do you guys do for Valentine's Day? How do you celebrate Valentine's Day? And I'd love for you to drop your thoughts in the chat. I'll pull those up on the screen. I would love to hear from you. And by the way, as always, this is sponsored by my Mindset Masterclass. You can see the web address up there. Hop over there and grab a free membership. I'd love to see you join a deeper level conversation over there. But we're going to do a little bit of rewiring Valentine's today. Now, why would we do that? Well, because it really dawned on me that Valentine's Day has become a bit like New Year's. You know, people make all these commitments at New Year's. They make big plans. They write it down. They go and they tell everybody. It's a big celebration for the day. And then those commitments start to fall off the day after. You know, Christmas is a bit that way. We wind up planning for Christmas and decorating for Christmas and buying gifts for Christmas and wrapping gifts for Christmas. And we put so much effort into it. And then what happens that after Christmas, we forget about all that giving because who wants to do giving year round? I mean, goodness gracious, what a bother. And so it's come to mind in my profession, and I do therapy every day of the week, or you know, sometimes every day, but usually Monday through Friday. I try to keep it within the white lines of the weekend there, you know. But that people like to have big bursts of connection. And then it's almost like they think that they can't take any more, you know. So why is it, we're going to be talking about for the next few minutes, that I think these traditional holiday celebrations really fall short of meeting what you might know as relationship satisfaction. We'll talk a little bit about the brain science of love. Yeah, the brain science of love. And what is the problem with Hallmark holidays anyway? I mean, why can't we have our own Cyrano de Bergerac in the form of a cardboard card and that just be enough? And so, my guest is here, so I'm actually going to stop yapping and get Yvonne in here. But thank you guys for being here. We're going to talk about some of these things, but also as far as it relates to Hollywood and stardom and everything. So let me grab Yvonne over here in my duo screen. I got to double click so there's not two of me because, goodness, who needs two of me? And there's Yvonne. Welcome. Hello, hello. Hello, Yvonne. Good to see you. Good to see you. Let me make sure my screen, my cameras, you guys are going to get to see me do this live. You never get to see all the work that's behind the scenes, but today you are. Look at this. And now I'm going to hop over here and give Yvonne her solo. Yep, that's not Yvonne. Don't be shocked. She looks much better than that. So there's Yvonne. All right. All right. So here we are. Let me make sure I got all these camera settings right here. And hey, Yvonne, happy Valentine's Day. We were just talking about, love, and Yvonne shows up.
And I'm wearing my special shirt today, too.
Oh, love is stronger than
Hate.
hate. Okay. You know, I saw the A and the T and my brain almost said love is stronger than Satan, but I guess that's true also. Hey,
Yes,
there's your
that
new
would be.
T-shirt, guys. Love is stronger than Satan, but love is stronger than hate. I love that. I love that. Yvonne, thank you so much. It's so great to see you here. I've got my, I've been enjoying my ginger, what is it? Oh, ginger peach. My ginger peach coffee. And I've got some questions ready to go. Guys, I'd like to tell you just a few things about Yvonne here on our special Executive Espresso Valentine's Day edition. Yvonne is an actress and she's a filmmaker. I would call her a behind the scenes powerhouse. She went from her Louisiana roots. Who doesn't love a Cajun? Louisiana roots to the
Right?
Hollywood grind and shared a set. Well, maybe almost. I don't know. She can tell us about it. With that guy, who is that guy? Is it Tommy something? Oh, Cruise. Tom Cruise got career
Yeah.
advice from Sydney Pollack. She's worked on Law and Order: Criminal Intent, and all of this while writing, directing, producing, and proving that talent isn't just a role she plays. So we're going to be talking about that today because today is all about love. It's the love holiday, and so that's whether you're loving another human or loving your craft, loving the risks that you take to further your future. Yeah, I mean, why if you're going to take risks, why not find value in them and learn to love those? And so it's just great to have you here today. We're going to be talking about the I'll take this role mindset. How does
Mm.
confidence and persistence really shape success in any field? So, Yvonne, just kind of jumping in there, man, you just seem to be bubbling over with confidence. Were you just born with it? Is it in the genes of your family? Your mom, your dad, your grandparents, and great grandparents have it. I mean, where's all this confidence come from?
I haven't ever thought about that actually. I definitely get it from my father. Um, but I also kind of feel like sometimes I'm an anomaly in my family. My grandfather was very, very confident. He was in sales actually. Um, yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, I'm a risk taker. I'm kind of like, you know how Elon has that post where he has the bird and it says, they say, don't do that. And he's got it sticking its foot up there. And he says,
I
I'm
saw
doing that.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I just kind of like that, I don't know. I like to break boundaries, break barriers, and see what's beyond. And just because I don't know, I'm kind of an out of the box thinker, I think. Someone says, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, really? Let me see if I can figure that out?
In our society, you hear about so many people coming out of the closet. I think about why not come out of the box? Why don't we hear more people talking about climbing out of the freaking box? I mean, you would think that the box is easier because it's typically made of cardboard, but more people don't climb out of it. But yeah, I think that it's out of the box thinkers that change their lives. And then when they change their lives, they can change the world. Hey there, Hakeem. One of my favorite guys there on X. Good to see you, Hakeem, buddy. Here is the postmaster himself. And I'm telling you, I can't keep up with Torsum. He must have like a robot or something posting all this stuff. He says, have a wonderful day. But guys, we're going to be here for about the next 18 minutes talking with Yvonne. Put your thoughts on in the chat down there. I would love it if you had a question. But yeah, see, I found that thinking outside the box, developing confidence is something that I don't know. I guess it really kind of is a role because I guess it depends on what you call confidence. I've never really thought, and I know it's one thing to say this, and you guys may not believe this. I've never really thought I had a lot of confidence. I just do things anyway. I just do things anyway. I think part of that is I don't care if I mess up. I don't care if people make fun of me because I like to laugh. I like to laugh at myself. If things go wrong, it's more of a challenge. I think, oh, look at that. That'll make a great story. And but I have thought about the auditions you guys have to do with acting. And I don't know if this is real because I've never been to one, but I see on TV and there's this big room of people, like 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And I
Yeah.
don't know. I just think maybe if I walked in and I thought, wow, you already got too many people already. I'm not trying out for that. I want to go to a room, there's only one other guy, and he smells bad or something. I don't know that I'd want to go in there and compete with all those other people. So, how do you get your mindset to compete toe to toe with all those other people in an audition?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah, because and I have been in open calls before, like especially when I first started in my career. I mean, and there are hundreds of people. I mean, I've been to an open call where it was an auditorium like full of people, so it can be very intimidating with those kind of things. I think it's honestly just a matter of practice. I think it's just a matter of practice, but I also think that sometimes I kind of any inhibitions that I have because we all have them. all the time, right? Like, I think I just kind of decide, screw it. Like, even though I'm feeling the thing or whatever, I push myself beyond it to make sure I just kind of break myself, I guess, like if I'm feeling a little bit fearful or something like that, but this is the shot, I'm like, well, I'm here, I got to do it. Let's go for it. And I just kind of push myself. But I also think that that's one of the fun things about being an actor is being spontaneous and out of the box and surprising people sometimes, and it's actually exhilarating and fun for yourself as the performer because you're literally in the moment. You never know what's going to happen, so you even sometimes surprise yourself, and that can be really exciting. So I think I just push myself. I make myself do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that you can't surprise yourself and you can't surprise others if you're trying to be other people. Because that's so
Yes.
predictable. Even Tom Cruise, believe it or not, the world doesn't need another Tom Cruise. The world doesn't need another Halle Berry, which, by the way, here's this is or at least interesting to me. Halle Berry got the role of uh, what was it, Catwoman? I think it was Catwoman.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she, of course, is not the only actress that tried out for it. I can't remember the other actress who was famous for this story. I think she told this story herself, but she actually made or had somebody make her a cat suit, and she wore the cat suit to the interview. I mean, she just shows up, putting it all out there, man. She just freaking goes for it. In my neck of the woods, just goes for broke. And I think that's what you've really got to do, because if you're holding back, you're going to fall short. I think of that recovery term, don't quit the day before the miracle happens. And so
Ooh.
don't stop before you go for broke, because that next inch or that next millimeter of being over the top may just be what gains you that toehold to success. So when you go into a an audition, and not just you but other people, I'm really interested in the thought processes that people have when they're going into an audition. And I would guess a lot of them go, but they think they're not going to get it. I think a lot of them go with, a defeatist mindset already. Um, but if you can, I mean, have you heard of what other people think about showing up for an audition? I mean, because what I'd like to show our audience here today is that even the most successful people have very, very sabotaging thoughts.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons why I loved getting into mindset so much and learning about how we think, how to build that confidence and stuff. I mean, part of it's absolutely just doing it, but you do have to get yourself in the right mindset. I mean, we've all had those self-sabotaging thoughts, myself as well. Like I think I mentioned on an X space the other day, I think it was your space, that sometimes I will literally decide for myself before I go into the audition, I'm going to nail this. I'm going to crush this. I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to be badass, right? Like, and what I find, because when I first started, and I think this happens with a lot of actors, and this probably happens with people in life, even content creators and everything. You're like, oh, I hope the director likes me. I hope they pick me. I hope they like what I'm doing. And you kind of got to throw that out the window and self-direct yourself and make your own decisions and just come in there, freaking balls out with whatever choices that you've made and let it ride. That's a big thing. You got to let it ride. And you got to be okay with feeling foolish sometimes, because actors can do crazy, wild things. I mean, I've done some things where I ended up having this really deep Southern accent for this character, and apparently it was supposed to be from New Jersey in this play I was doing. It was so embarrassing. But I'm like, how else am I going to figure all this stuff out unless I just do it? It's a lot of playing, but definitely self talk is huge. And not thinking that just because you didn't get the part or maybe they didn't respond to you doesn't mean you're not good, and doesn't mean that that you didn't do a good job in the audition. There are so many factors to why they pick a particular actor for one scene or another. Having been a director, producer myself and casted my own things, that was eye opening for me as an actor, getting behind the camera like that, because you see it completely different. You realize the nuances, and you may have an actor that auditions for you and they're freaking incredible, but they're not right for that role or something. But then that's when you will remember them and save them for another role. There's so many variations to it. It's not a one-stop shop with acting. It's very fluid, and I think that that's one of the things that can also be really challenging about it.
You know, as you're talking, I'm kind of comparing in my mind how the best movies work versus how the worst spaces work. And on X, those of you that aren't familiar with X, Yvonne and I are on X. You know, we do these spaces, do these audio shows. And the best spaces is where people come up in service of the space, not in service of just people listening to them or talking
Mm.
about, their cabbage garden or whatever, but people in service of the space. So imagine your favorite movies if the actor that was hired was not the best for the role, was not best for the film, but somebody just liked them. And I think I've seen movies like that because they really suck. Uh,
Yeah.
we're just going to hire them because he's my third cousin, second nephew or something. And so even the best actors, one of the things that I admire in actors is when they did not get a role, but then they compliment the person that did get the role and say, you know what, they did a much better job of that particular role than I could have. Because not
Mm.
every role is right for every actor. I mean, I love Anthony Hopkins. He's somebody asked me this morning if you could. Actually, it was a post. It was a post. It says if you could role play if you could spend a day with a fictional character, who would it be? Everybody was saying, I don't know. I know automatically who mine would be. It would be Odin, as played by Anthony Hopkins. It would be
Yes.
Thor's dad because he's such, in my mind, I can't even think of anybody else. You might think of Liam Neeson. He couldn't have done the job that Anthony Hopkins did. But then again, Anthony Hopkins couldn't have done the job that Liam Neeson did of, I have a certain set of skills which I've developed over a very long life, skills that make me a nightmare for people like you, that kind of thing. And
Mm.
what was that movie? That Taken. And
Oh,
so, yeah, Taken. So every role's not right for everybody, but I was thinking about how people in spaces, the speakers, spaces are just kind of audio meetings, by the way. It's like the audio street corners of the 17th and 18th century. But yeah, I think everybody's not right for the same role, and you're not right for every part. And so, but let me move on to the next question here. So I love what you said about working in front of the camera and behind the camera. Well,
hmm
what are some things, maybe not to put you on the spot because I don't think I sent you this question, but what are some things that you learned about life uh, working behind the camera? Does that make sense? Some things you think, you know,
mm. Mm. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is um, the impulses that we have, like the natural impulses that we have. Like I directed this play. It was an off Broadway play because I've also directed some theater too. And um, one of the most fun things about doing that, and I love directing, working with actors because you're reading people's energy. Like it's. But one of the things that happens, and I think this happens in life with everybody all the time, right? Again, you got to take those risks. I mean, with acting, you have to take risks. If you play it too safe, and not saying I haven't done that, I've definitely been when I've played it safe, right? But when I didn't kind of give a crap and I was just like, screw it, let's just see what happens. Those are the times when I really shined. And what I find is that's following your impulses in the moment. Now, in life, it's not always good to do that, right? Like when people get reactive on posts and stuff and they get, triggered or whatever. But when I was directing some of the plays, and even with film, is having that second person be able to tell you, like I would see when an actor was getting ready to do something, like they're standing on the stage and they maybe turn their shoulder like a little bit or something like that while they're saying a line. And thankfully, with my intuitive vision that I have, I could see that they wanted to go to the other side of the table, or that they wanted to, like, punch that person in the shoulder or throw something, so I would stop them when we were in rehearsals and say to them, you had an impulse there, what was it? So I think one of the biggest, that like not hindering yourself, because we
Hmm.
hold ourselves back a lot, but then also discovery and questioning things. Like, as an actor, you have to question everything. What is my character's motive? What am I doing? Like, you learn so much about human behavior from that. So I became such an observer of people, and wanting to understand people, because you have to understand your character. It's a different person than you, maybe has different values than you, and you have to figure out how to mesh the two of those things together with bringing your own essence. So I think it's really understanding
Hmm.
people with where they are, and not judgment, like,
Hmm.
because you have to,
I,
like, if you're playing a bad character or something, you don't want to have any judgment. You have to be true to that
mhm.
character. You know what I mean?
I love
Yeah.
that. So as a director, you have to understand the character that that your actors are playing. It's not really being a dictator. It's really being maybe a
Yeah.
decoder instead of a director, more of a decoder. You're trying to understand that character. So guys, listen. Imagine applying that to your relationships. Instead of trying to dictate the character of somebody, try to understand their character. And then I love what you said. I want to go back to that because you said you ask an actor if they turn their shoulder this way, they had an impulse, and then you asked them the question, what was going on there? Why would you ask them what's going on there?
Well, for one, a lot of times when they would have that impulse, because a lot of times I think it's subconscious, or it happens so quickly you don't
Mm,
even realize you're stopping yourself,
absolutely.
right? And it's kind of also like, it's almost like they needed permission to do that. Like, is it okay to do that?
Oh,
And yeah, and that's what we do a lot of times in life. We kind of tiptoe around things instead of just going, bold and out there, and throw it up there and let's see what happens, right? I think you have to kind of be like that a lot, and life isn't always like that, because you don't want to make mistakes, you don't want to lose your job, you know what I mean? So that was one part of it, because I had to call it to his attention, because he himself wasn't necessarily aware of it,
oh.
right? So to call it out, and then also, you're talking through it. I mean, I guess it is kind of like therapy, right? Like, acting is,
I was thinking
um,
that same thing. It's directorial therapy.
yes. I mean, because you're talking through it, and if they
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh," and I say, "Well, why didn't you go over there?" And then it might have been the actor that paused themselves, or is it your character having a reason as to why you wanted to go over there and you didn't? So, say, like, if
Ah.
it's a scene where you're breaking up, the husband is breaking up with the wife or whatever, right? And he wanted to go over there to her and started in that direction, but then stopped himself, right? So is it the actor doing that, or is it the character doing that,
Oh
right? And what's
wow.
yeah, there's a lot of levels to it.
I see the same thing in therapy. I see people almost let loose, and then there's almost like there's either a hurdle or maybe a barricade. And I don't think that they notice it. I really don't think, I mean, sometimes maybe, but I don't think they notice it because I'll say, well, no, wait a minute. Before, let's hit the pause button here, take a time out. What was going on when you started to say this, or you were shuffling around, or I saw your face draw, your face turn red, because I'd have no idea. I'm not psychic. And so people want to hold back from going all the way. And what you do is you limit self discovery, And I think this is one of the great things in relationships, top relationships go, guys. And after all, it is Valentine's Day, so try this stuff out. Is instead of being the director, be a promoter of that person, coming out of the box, coming out of their shell. Irving Yalom wrote a book, I think it was called On Becoming Myself. And so I think that in relationships and in life in general, in acting, people become the character. There's a term. Well, I guess it is. It's character actors, right? People that are called character actors. But in life, you're really just becoming more of yourself, and that's what Yalom talked about. Um, but so, are you in a relationship with somebody where you're okay with them becoming themselves, or do they have to stay stuck inside the cardboard box that you have duct taped together for them. Well, look, therapist here, that's a terribly unhealthy thing to do. Your job is to help them with self discovery. If you don't help them with self discovery, then you're really limiting yourself. You're robbing yourself from seeing all they could become. And I think that that's what I guess that's what goes on behind the scenes with the director, because I see some of these performances, man, these actors, these performances. I'm like, wow, how did they pull that off? Because what they achieve, what they achieved, my wonderful theater professor, the marvelous Dr. Jay Summers from Lyon College, taught me the most important thing about performances, but also about watching movies, which I love to do. And he said you have to suspend your disbelief. So
Yeah.
what an actor's doing is they're helping me suspend my disbelief, and that's why I love Anthony Hopkins, because whether he's Hannibal Lecter or Odin, he's helping me suspend my disbelief. But he can't do that if he has a director holding him back. So a little bit of inside information here, Yvonne. I would guess there's a lot of different types of directors, and some promote that artistic release of an actor, and some directors may get in the way of it. Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it also depends on what kind of project you're doing, right? Like if you're in a television show, it's very they're on such a time crunch budget and everything, like because every time is money. So especially depending if you're like a day player, in other words, if you're only coming there for the day, or under five, which is like if you have an under five, basically meaning under 5 words, you're in the script, right? Like a lot of times with those kinds of shows, because of the time that they have to crank that stuff out, you the actor have to already be prepared. Like they just want you ready to go, especially if you're playing some of the smaller parts. There might be a little exploration that happens sometimes within some of the scenes, but a lot of times it's preparation ahead of time that the actor has to already be ready. As opposed to like in a film, depending on the director, sometimes there is a lot more discovery that can happen, right? I mean, the actor obviously has to be prepared with their character, but then they might be working with the director for a longer period of time before they even get to shooting to start discussing that, and then also with the writer and things. So I think it depends on whether or not the director is very technical or not, or whether or not they are more exploratory, artistic wise, right? Because you
Oh,
might, yeah, because the camera also, and that's for film and television, right? But because the camera is such a powerful component of telling the story, that a lot of times the technical aspect can supersede the artistic, but you still have to be real with it, right? I mean,
mm.
obviously, the actor still has to believe what they're saying. So,
Exactly. Yeah, they have to believe what they're saying, and they become that. So just to take away there for, relationship day, this is the day we're celebrating relationships, Valentine's Day, is that I'll get people that's what they'll say, that they'll say, well, I'm not into that. Well, who cares if you're into it? There's a certain bit of wisdom to the fake it till you make it thing. You're playing a role until your neurons come to believe the role you're playing, and then you become that. Of course, I mean, it's just I'm a Batman fan. I've always been a superhero fan, but Heath Ledger just embodied Joker. I'm thinking, whoa, holy crap!
yeah.
I mean, I wonder if Christian Bale was jealous of that, because man, who could compete with that? It's like you had an actor playing Batman on the screen,
Mhm.
but then you had Joker, and I mean the real Joker on the screen, because that was Joker.
Yeah.
And so you really have to embody it, and then you become what you embody. I guess the downside of that is to be very careful with the character, especially in real life, that you decide to embody, because you become what you embody. I see a lot of law enforcement officers and military really struggle with this, because they've become, the blue superhero chasing, the bad guys or whatever, and it's hard to turn off that role when you get
Yeah.
home with the kids and the husband or the wife. In the same way with the military, you've been in some foreign country fighting bad guys, hard to come back here and turn that off. And so you got to be careful. So my next question is, I guess two questions. Do you see actresses and actors, just actors in general, struggle with turning off that role? I mean, does that? I've always wondered, does that really mess with their lives after they've taken a role? Because it seems like I recall some story about Jack Nicholson advising Heath Ledger about taking the role, and he had expressed some concern about it. Maybe that's mythological, but I'm just wondering, in the aftermath of Heath Ledger's death, if he really struggled with the embodiment of the Joker.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's such a great question because I was going to mention to you, I actually was at the Time Center in New York and with Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale when they were doing a special interview and they were talking about it. And it was actually after Heath Ledger had passed away. And he was talking about how Heath got into the character and some of the things that he did, right? Because there's so many elements, just like us in life, which we don't think about it like that. But like even the clothes that you wear, like everything is very intentional to get into the body of the character. And I believe that story with Jack Nicholson is true. I think I
Mm.
remember hearing that. And but that is a very big concern. Like you were talking about Anthony Hopkins. I mean, Heath Ledger, I think definitely had that. And Anthony Hopkins, when he had played Hannibal Lecter, there are stories about his wife, like when he was going through that character, because the essence of the character does kind of fall on you. It can merge with you, right? Like you have to be very conscious, especially while you're playing the character, which is part of your job. But I mean, because again, it's like this whole weird thing where you're in your mind and you have to trick yourself into believing
Mm.
that everything around you is real or that you're this real person. So it's kind of like you put that true version of yourself in the background and you have
Mm.
to let the character kind of take over. You kind of let it take over. And the biggest trick there is absolutely, cutting it off because the other thing too is, even if it's a bad character, I've played bad characters. I don't normally get cast in that type of role, which is one of the reasons why I did some of those just to like throw myself out of the box and go totally the opposite of what I'd be cast as. But you fall in love with that character, right? Like
Mm.
even kind of the bad things that maybe the character's doing if they're really sly and sneaky and things like that, right? But you start to notice in your own behavior certain characteristics of that character that you will then end up doing in everyday life. And so there is kind of like you have to separate yourself from that. And I think that sometimes that's when like real therapy and coaching sessions can really help to have that separation until you fully defuse from the character when you're playing it. Because I mean, it can really psychologically mess with you. I mean, 100%.
Absolutely. I think you would say you're letting the shadow come out of the box and play. How do you get the shadow back in the box? And
Yeah.
on a a relationship note here, it kind of dawns on me that a lot of the folks that I see, it's almost like, and to pick on men, I mean, it happens with women too, is that men, it's not that they let their shadow out of the box to play. It's that's who is in a relationship with that significant other, with your wife or whoever. It's not you, it's your shadow. And so I'll ask all you guys out here on Valentine's Day, when you had that date tonight or that dinner, somebody said they're just going to do takeout. I'm not really sure what we're going to do. That's up to my wife. But we may just sit around and light a candle and eat chocolates or something. But who is the other person in a relationship with? When it comes to you, who is the other person in a relationship with? Are they in a relationship with the genuine you, or are you allowing them to be in a relationship to their detriment and yours? Are they in a relationship with your shadow? Well, it may be time to put a lasso, if not a leash, on that shadow, put them back in the box, and you come out and give that other person what they deserve from you. Jung said that all of life is really a struggle with that shadow. And I think a lot of people, well, I see it in spaces, it's just the worst aspects of people come out because it's just so anonymous. And oh, by the way, sidebar, you're not anonymous on social media. Just a disclaimer: if you do nasty things like say things that are slanderous or type things that are libelous, then yes, 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 there you can be found. So don't be foolish. But people almost let the worst part of themselves, and Jung would call that the shadow. Well, we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes, guys. If you have some questions for Yvonne, thank you, Michael. Michael warned me, don't get the Anthony Hopkins character wrong, though, bro. I would never try to mimic Anthony Hopkins. Well, actually, I do try in private, but I don't think I'll try it on screen. Anthony Hopkins. I first saw him in a movie that scared the bejesus out of me when I was a kid. And if you guys haven't watched it and you get frightened, then don't watch it because it will haunt your dreams, haunt your nightmares. And it was called, I think it was called Magic. That is just the one of the freakiest movies involving a ventriloquist dummy that I've ever seen. And so a lot of people don't like clowns. And before that movie, I love ventriloquist dummies. I practiced ventriloquy. I had a Charlie McCarthy. I know a lot of folks don't know who that is. Google it. Uh, but I tell you what, I get creeped out when I see a ventriloquist dummy because of Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins ruined my love with, well, ventriloquy dummies. And then Hakeem is saying he loves the discussion. Famous in my phone says, this is wonderful space. Thanks, Dr. Heath and Yvonne. Well, thank you so much, Famous in my phone, for watching and listening. And what did he say? Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, the invite to dinner, pal. Yeah, yeah. With a little Fiava beans and Chianti. I didn't know you said Chianti that way. You said Chianti. I thought it was Chianti, but he said Chianti, but it sounds better that way. I mean, gosh, you can't argue with a performance by Anthony Hopkins. By the way, if you guys don't know, Anthony Hopkins' house burned down in the fires in California. Very sad for him. I think he'll be okay though. But he and he'll probably still keep doing that. I look forward to some of his live short videos, just on the joy of life. In real life, he puts himself out there and he just truly embraces and enjoys all of life. So on that point, let's talk about how to fall in love with the journey in acting, directing, business, success in life. How to fall in love with the journey. And so you seem so full of joy, Yvonne. How do you pull that off?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just maybe it's just my disposition. Like I think I think it's part of my essence, just kind of who I am. It doesn't mean I don't get dark and deep. I mean, let's keep it real. You know what I mean? I've had some dark days. So but I don't know. I'm always trying to see the possibilities instead of the
Mm.
obstacles. Like when I see an obstacle or something, I'm always like, well, how do I work around that, or how do I solve that, right? Like I also
Oh yeah.
think too, yeah, right, yeah. I mean, I also think too, like my father and my family, like they're very outgoing,
Ah.
loving people. I mean, they're the kind of people when they walk in, they're the life of the party and everybody loves them. So I also think I definitely get it from my father and my mom too. She's super, super sweet. So I think, I mean, I got a pretty good mix. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But it's like even my father, he like when and I think it's also too being Southern. Like I just love being nice to people. I'm naturally friendly. I like making people feel good because I want to feel good. So little things like if he meets somebody or goes into a Walmart or something, he's buying something, he'll say, hope you have they'll say, hope you have a nice day. And he's, which I think is kind of cheesy, but it's also kind of cute. And he'll be like, well, I will, and you too, and I will because you're part of it. Like he well, like tries to lift people up. So I don't know. I'm always just trying to pivot when I'm in the darkness, or if I'm having things, I try to revert and think, well, again, like Neville Goddard, what do I want, right? Instead of the thing that I don't want.
Hmm.
Um, And it's just, I think that also came in habit in that regard. But as far as just like my energy and stuff like that, I think that's just, part of who I am, thank God. So
That's awesome. But I think that you guys can create that. You don't have to be Yvonne. Certainly don't have to be me. You can create this. And your best acting coach lives at your house. Your best acting coach lives in your mirror. And so look in your mirror and coach yourself to a higher level mindset. We literally, with every word we say, we're speaking our mindset into existence, and your brain echoes that back to you, and you become the words you say, you become the things you tell yourself. And when you look at those things that some call, obstacles, they become a black hole or just an obstacle with stair steps you can climb over. Every obstacle I've ever seen in my life really has rungs on a ladder attached to it. I've never seen an obstacle that I didn't think had a ladder attached to it. Yes, I'm careful climbing it. I don't want to fall off. Sometimes, metaphorically, I've fallen off. But yeah, when you see the obstacle, go ahead and see it, but see some handholds in it. Most people don't look close enough, so they don't see the steps kind of hidden there. They don't see the handholds and the rungs of the ladder. So you create those. You create those. And so we hope that you fall in love with your journey. Yvonne, how can folks get in touch with you? Tell us where all your content is.
Oh yeah. So I am across all social media, but I'm not on TikTok. I think I have TikTok, but I'm not active. But the best place to reach me is at the Yvonne Sayers. And X. X is my number one platform. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I hardly ever use those because I'm a Power X user and I freaking love the platform. So I think that is probably the best way to get in touch
A
with me.
Power X user indeed. I've never heard that term before, but yes, indeed, you are a Power X user. And thank you for Famous on My iPhone asking that question. Yes, all of my interviews are recorded. You guys can grab those over at the Mindset Masterclass, and the link is right up there at the top. In the show notes, I put a link to Yvonne's IMDb. You can see right below her lovely face is her handle on X, the Yvonne Sayers, just as simple as that. Go and check her out. Watch some of those great movies. Hunt down the one where she played a punk rocker. I was shocked at that. It seems like you had one that you played a punk rocker role or something.
Oh yeah, that the rooftop shot I think that I had on there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's fun to be edgy,
It's
like I
fun to
have.
be edgy. Yeah, I thought I had that written down here. What was that called? 100 Center Street or one of those shows.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
you
Oh
are.
my.
She was on Chappelle's show. Maury Povich, Always Us, Effigy, and then of course, man, I was just blown away. I just love the firm. What the creepiest term in that, or the creepiest line in that term in that movie was the end where Tom Cruise says, "I'm your attorney." I'm thinking, man, those are some pretty scary words, no matter where you go. By the time you get to the point where somebody needs to say, "I'm your attorney," some things have gone wrong. So,
Yeah.
great movie. Great interview with Yvonne here. Thank you so much. Just kind of leaving folks for some great affirmation, some word of encouragement to add into their blueprint for some of these bold career moves. What might you say? What might we leave them with?
Ooh, affirmation wise, I if it's an I am affirmation, I would just say I'm freaking awesome.
I love it. Say that in the mirror. Say it 20 times. It's not for nothing that a pack of cigarettes has 20 cigarettes, because that's about how many it takes before you want to smoke another pack of cigarettes. It's just about 20. Develops a
Mm.
habit. Well, leverage that cigarette psychology to what Yvonne just said. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, channel your inner Billy Crystal, who is famous from Saturday Night Live, looking in the mirror and saying, you're marvelous. And say to yourself that 20 times a day, and believe it or not, you'll come to believe it. You know why? Because it's true. You'll come to believe it because it's true. And so thank you so much, Yvonne. Guys, remember, success is a lot like love. It's messy, unpredictable, it takes work. But when you find what you're passionate about, you'll never give up on it. It just becomes a pattern in life, and you'll look back at the end of a very long life at your last breath and say, that was a happy life. That was a happy life. And I'm so happy to have had Yvonne here today. Yvonne, thank you so much. Guys,
Thank
we'll
you
catch you
so
next
much.
time. We've got a Monday Mindset Mojo coming up. That is this Monday morning, and we're live streaming through, well, almost everywhere. Well, not TikTok. They don't let me do that, although I do have an account. They just don't let me live stream through it. But Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and into my Mindset Masterclass. Thank you guys so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much, Yvonne. Bye bye now.
Bye.